everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. He's D Gun. I am R. Ellis. We are hanging with you on this Tuesday. And I see everybody in the chat section. What's up, guys? Appreciate it. Everybody streaming, everybody listening. All right, Gunner. A little Sixers here. And, we sit here and you're in that kind of that limbo land where we are. Not sure what's going to happen, with this team in terms of the coaching search. And Doc Rivers out. If you didn't hear a little bit earlier, he's going to interview in Phoenix. So we'll see what ends up happening there. By the way, I don't know how much you have been paying attention to that owner out there in Phoenix. He's a bit of a whack job, man. My man's a little strange.
Seems like every sport has one. Indianapolis, in the NFL, Phoenix, in the NBA. There's always one in every group, dude. But you're right. If I was part of that organization, I'd want to get far away from there as possible.
Yeah, I think I would too.
Jeez.
All right. So what we're hearing, at least, and who knows if there isn't a dark horse here or somebody we're not talking about, whatever, that may be involved, because there usually is. We're hearing Nick Nurse. We're hearing Mike Budenholzer. We're hearing Monty Williams. We're hearing Frank Vogel. We're hearing Mike D'Antoni. Those are the names that are being bandied about. Now, you had up close and personal knowledge of Budenholzer over the last, whatever it's been. How long was he there? About 5 years?
5 years, yep.
So let's. I want to start there, Derek, because you keep a close eye on the Bucks because you grew up in the Milwaukee area. Is he someone you would like to see come here as the Sixers? He did win a championship, but it didn't end particularly well. The last couple of years.
The biggest knock on him at times is strategy. When to call timeouts, when to stop a team's flow. 3 times in 5 years, the Bucks finished as the 1 seed in the East, and they bowed out in the first round semis and conference finals. Now, they won the title a couple of years ago, and back then, the rumor was if he didn't go deep into the playoffs, he was gone then, the year they won the championship. So he bought 2 years by winning the championship, but obviously caught up to him this year. And he admitted that one game where it went to overtime against Miami, he should have called the timeout. He admitted that himself to give the Bucks a better shot at winning that game, and he didn't, and it cost him down the stretch. He's a player's coach. The offense does run through Giannis, but he lets his dudes – he gives his guys freedom to throw it up. The Bucks were one of the top 3-point shooting teams for several years. That team was loaded with 3-point shooters. It's kind of like a Miami-Boston team.
Right.
They play great defense. He emphasizes defense, but he also emphasizes getting a collection of dudes that can hit the bullseye from beyond the arc. I think he's a good candidate here. I don't know how the Sixers feel about him, but I do think he's one of the better candidates out there to come in here and coach this team.
Okay. It's. I would say this: if I had to rank the way I would like to see it, Nurse would be number 1.
Okay.
I do really like Chris Quinn of Miami, but it feels like he's not even a consideration. But I'll throw his name out there. But I would go Budenholzer of the ones that seem realistic, and Monty Williams kind of a toss up. At least Budenholzer has the edge in that he won one. I thought Monty Williams got really screwed in Phoenix, so I wouldn't have a problem with Monty Williams either. It seems like they don't have a ton of interest there. We'll see. He played here and coached here. Mm-hmm. Frank Vogel's a name that's being thrown out there. He did win it in the bubble with the Lakers. And he's done, did a nice job in Indiana when he was there also. I don't want any parts of D'Antoni. He would be my least favorite of the hires.
Right.
You look at Nurse, Nurse won one. He won it the year when they knocked the Sixers out and Kawhi Leonard hit that shot. And then Kawhi Leonard walks in free agency and goes to the Clippers. But if you look at what he followed that year up, they were 53-19. They were very good the next year, and he won Coach of the Year that year, in fact. I feel like more of his downfall in Toronto was just losing pieces, important pieces.
And he was the fall guy.
Yeah.
He was the fall guy. When he had the pieces, they were a good team. When you let the pieces go, what do you expect the coach to do? Yeah. If you're not giving them the same type of talent to compete, what do you want them to do? And, players love playing for him.
Yeah.
He just didn't get it done. I think he's the kind of coach who's a good fit for a team that's ready to go to that next level. I don't think you want to put him with a team that's in a rebuilding mode.
Right.
And I think depending what happens with the 76ers team, if they can somehow tweak the roster just a little bit more, this is a team that could be right there again. But, we talked about the problems yesterday with this team. Are you keeping Harden long term? We both agree we don't want that.
Yeah.
If you don't keep Harden, what do you get? What are you going to get in return for him? Whether it's on the free agent market or a trade, it may not be anything close to what Harden was. He did have the capability of giving you 35, 45 points a night, but he wasn't consistent enough. The next night he'd give you 8 points. 3 of 11 shooting, 0 for 6 from beyond the arc. You need somebody with more consistency. Is that type of player out there on the trading block? I don't
with
know.
limited funds.
With limited funds.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I don't know, man. I don't know if you can do that. But
I
like Nurse. I'm a Nurse fan.
Yeah. Keith Pompey came out with this was like Thursday or Friday, that there was a real interest from the Rockets. It's not just Harden's camp pumping this up to try to get more out of the Sixers. And we talked about this yesterday too, Derek. And while I 100% trust Keith's reporting, I don't know that I buy that on the Harden part. And then Brian Windhorst said today, NBA insider for ESPN, that he does think that Harden's camp is just trying to jack this thing up and build the interest level from around the league to get the Sixers to get this to the 4 years, 4 years, $200 million, which, and I'm just afraid that Daryl Morey can't be objective when it comes to James Harden specifically.
Yeah.
And that's where we are.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I get a feeling that James has more clout with Morey than obviously Embiid does because of their relationship. And that's a bad thing because it could cloud his decision. And if you give James Harden that max, I think it's going to hurt you more so than it's going to help you in the long run.
Yes.
Because you're going to be so severely handcuffed. How are you going to make the roster better? Even if you get rid of a Tobias Harris, how are you going to make the roster better? Mm-hmm. And if you're not making the roster better, it's going to be the same thing year. It's going to be like Groundhog's Day every year with this team, as long as James Harden and Embiid are together.
Yep.
Maxey is the third wheel. When you talk about every team needs at least three players that can carry a team, but I'm not so sure James Harden can give you that consistency to be the second guy to help carry that team. But you're caught between a rock and a hard place right now.
I agree. Look, there aren't easy solutions to this. Like if it was as simple as Harden walks away and you have $35 million to play with,
right?
It's a lot more clear. Okay, then you can go do something. You don't have that kind of money, and are you willing to take a little bit of a step back? I don't know that they're willing to come to that. I mean, they do great attendance wise. From a business standpoint, as frustrating as the losses are, they do very well business wise. I don't know that they would be willing to do that. And I frankly, I question it. I question whether they'd be willing to do that. It's probably the most prudent move, but I don't know that they're going to do it. And it just feels like you're trying to catch, you get like sand in your fingers and it's just kind of going through here. Even with Embiid, I don't know that he's that guy that can win you a championship. And while I don't think he's going anywhere, I think the combination of two guys who can't win you a championship together, with Harden and Embiid, it's trouble.
That's bad mojo. And, Sixers have nobody to blame but themselves for putting themselves in this position. Mm-hmm. And there's no easy way out for them. Right now, this team basically is, as we see it now, this team is going to be status quo for next season. And that's not a good thing when you're trying to get past that dark cloud of the second round. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, they ran into a Boston team. This wasn't Atlanta, a team like that. This was a Boston team that had their number. They fought tooth and nail against Boston until that final 6 quarters of their series. Should I say final 4+ quarters?
I was going to say
4+. 4+.
Let's go 4 + 5. The last 5 minutes of Game 6. Yeah.
But now, as the brain trust sits behind closed doors to evaluate what needs to be done, they got to be looking at each other saying, "Where are we going to go? we don't have much wiggle room whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I don't know if Tobias Harris will be traded, because I don't know if you can get anything better back for him.
Yeah.
If I'm a team out there looking to find a piece that can make me better, I'm not giving up good players for Tobias Harris. I'm giving up prospects and draft picks. The Sixers don't need draft picks. They need ready players now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any team out there is going to give up quality players for Tobias Harris, especially to a Sixers team that has no draft picks, to throw into the mix.
Yeah. And I almost feel like that has to be tied into, like, if you're allowing Harden to walk, you have to tie in Tobias Harris and moving him to free some money up, to allow yourself to be able to supplement partly what you're missing there. I'm not saying you're getting someone who's going to be a clone of James Harden, but maybe you can get yourself a solid point guard and get yourself a guy who's a shooter who isn't costing you an arm and a leg. Easier said than done. I get it.
Correct. I agree 100%. And how's the fan base going to respond? Because eventually we're going to find out. We're going to find out before the summer's over what this roster is going to look like, and how does the fan base respond? Now, initially, fan base will go out. They'll watch this team. If this team started to waver too much, you're going to hear boos raining down from the stands. One thing about this Philadelphia fan base is they wear their emotions on their sleeves. They don't hold back, and they're going to let you know about it. I think the Sixers, as we know them now, will be a good team, but the team, as we also know it right now, is allowing the likes of Cleveland and New York to creep up on them.
Right.
And that's not a good thing in terms of pecking order in the East.
That's a really good point, Derek. I mean, if you look at the conference, right, and the other thing is, and hey, look, Milwaukee didn't take care of their business, so that's on them. But they were just out of it. You didn't have to worry about them, right? And
right.
Now all of a sudden, what does Miami look like next year with this run that they're going on? I mean, they might be kind of rejuvenated. They were an 8 seed. Cleveland, you're right about that. You're right about the Knicks. Boston, I don't know what's going to happen, especially if they get swept, if they don't change coaches. There's talk they may trade Jaylen Brown. So, that they could look different for sure. So, yeah, this can take a lot of different forms. This conference that they're in for sure.
I'm looking at this Miami roster, and you have 2 star players, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Jimmy's making almost $38 million. Adebayo's making $30+ million.
Yeah.
Now you have Duncan Robinson, who was a role player, is not even a significant primetime player, who's making $16.9. Kyle Lowry, at the age of 37, is making $28 million. And then after that, you got a bunch of guys making anywhere between $1 and $7 million. And also, don't forget, Oladipo could be coming back. Some say his career could be over.
Right.
But if he comes back, he makes that Miami team that much more dangerous next year as well. So even if Miami doesn't win the title, they're going to be the same solid junkyard dog team next year as they are this year. So they're going to be a thorn in the side as well. The uniqueness of Miami is, and as they've shown us this season, they can pull guys out of the G League, off the scrap heap, and make a formidable opponent out of them. That's a rare trait. Pat Riley is a genius when it comes to that. Not many teams can do that. And Pat Riley's going to have his team right back in the mix again.
Yeah.
And the 76ers, how are you going to respond to that? And so that's why I said, we sit here sitting on our hands, wondering what's going to become of the Sixers team, a team with no wiggle room, a team with no draft picks, and you're trying to close the gap on the likes of Milwaukee, Boston, and Miami.
Yeah.
And put more distance between yourselves and New York and Cleveland. But right now, it looks like you're getting closer to New York and Cleveland than you are to Miami, Milwaukee, and Boston.
I'm laughing as you say this because it's like, man, this doesn't sound real promising.
No, it doesn't. No,
I'm not liking the way this sounds, and they still haven't decided on a coach. Not to mention, like, how does Embiid bounce back? Next year after the way this ended. I wonder if the love affair with the fan base doesn't start to erode a little bit, just little tiny cracks, and then ultimately, if they have a bad year next year, does he want out?
Well, we saw it happen when the Sixers went through a bad stretch of seasons. how the seats were empty. Well, you and I were still working at NBC.
Yeah.
Seats were empty. People didn't come out to the games. And you hope that doesn't happen again, because this team is not the Flyers. This team is not devoid of talent. It just doesn't have enough good talent to get to that next level. Plain and simple.
Yeah, well said. Well said. All right. When we come back, we are going to be joined by Phillies analyst Ben Davis. They lose again last night, Derek, and you keep waiting for a run. Like, they took the final 2 out of 3 to the Diamond to the over the weekend of the Cubs, and you're saying, all right, this maybe this is the time. Right. And then boom. And then you have a game where everything, they don't hit particularly well. They don't get great pitching. Their fielding was atrocious. They just not thinking the game well. And you just wonder, at what point does this team get their act together? And are you going to try to really flip the switch again, like you did last year, where you got it going after a 22-29 season? So you're starting. Right. All right. We'll do all that with Ben when we come back. Don't go anywhere. He's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Right now, I want to tell you about Pro Action Restoration. If you're not familiar with the name, get familiar, write the number down, write down the online portal where you can get a hold of them. Because look, here's the deal. If you have, unfortunately, if you go through, a flooding in your house, a fire, if you see mold, if you notice that you have all kinds of, any of those kind of issues, smoke damage, whatever the case may be, you're not prepared to clean that up or handle that, right? But Pro Action Restoration is, and they're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. And that means Saturdays, that means Sundays, that means nighttime, that means holidays, you name it, they will be there, because I went through it. I went through it on a Saturday. They came out and they helped out my family, and the crew was professional, clean. The price was reasonable. They are the real deal, and they are licensed, bonded, fully insured. Pro Action Restoration has been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades, and they will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So again, it could be water, it could be fire, it could be smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.